Oh,
So, let's do this, I guess. Alright. There is shopping something a go-go extravaganza. Super happy porno the fifth. Part 2, Act 1, Scene 1, Subsection 1, Clause 1, Statement 1, Article 1, Paragraph 1, Page 1, Season 1, Episode 1. uh, okay. Dedicated to Addie's sweet, sexy, succulent voice. Oh yes.
oh
Addie's voice makes you wet. Oh
yes.
30. The word of Addie is like the word of God, only more important. Old Steam Chat proverb. When Addie speaks, even spammers stop to listen. Old Steam Chat proverb. 1 watt is 2 cents. Berreh can't even the whole thing SOPA. Stop right there, criminal scum. You have violated the law. Pay the court or fine, or serve your sentence. Your stolen goods are now forfeit. Take them over my cold dead Comic Sans. Now that that's out of the way. One day, after the previous story, and Berreh has had all of the orgasms and dolphins and such, Berrehs was needing FUDs. Today is the day of all shopping and stuff. And yes, and she grabbed Pinchy and rocketed out of her chair couch thing and shot out of the door, won her sweet moped cycle into thousands of tiny pony chunks. But then the pony chunks came together and Berreh was like, what the fuck?
What the fuck?
And then, oh, yeah. And then Pinchy was like,
What?
and then they went to the Watt store and cashed in all their watts to buy more watts because this is making you what, and then both of them got a moaner.
Excuse me, fine gentle pony, but I am in need of your finest sign lighting fixtures. Would you be so kind as to acquire some for my needs?
And then the shop owner was like,
What?
and Pinchy was like,
What?
but they weren't just saying what, they were talking in an ancient language of what, so they made a evil plot to turn the world into what, but what. The world was what, and Berreh was drunk like always. What have you learned? Death comes on swift wings of death, all the things. And then Berreh was storying all the story, right? Because nothing made sense because all was drunk. There was a small drunk and a large drunk and a fat drunk and a large Finnish man drinking a beer. But what is it human? No pony knew, but the store. But it was not light fixtures that they were after, it was food. Pinchy was supposed to be the one reminding Berreh these things, but Pinchy's head was in Russia with the Communist Empire of the New Lunar Republic because her last experience with Celestia had not been as fun as she had hoped. So they exchanged some what's and Berreh had a new hat. She wandered out of the door into the bright sunlight and decided it was time for a snack. Meanwhile, in a place not too far from Ponyville, a strange occurrence was happening in a field. And then they all fucked. Okay. Berreh wandered over to a cabbage stand and bought a cabbage. He tried to pay with a Pinchy, but the shopkeeper wouldn't. So she hoofed over a few bits and nommed on the cabbage.
Pinchy, where we go so to get food for our house?
But Pinchy had run off to see what the commotion was for from the other side of town.
Pinchy?
Berreh Punch looked around briefly and shrugged, finishing the cabbage. And then the cabbage stand exploded. Kaboom! Shredded shards of cabbage rained upon Berreh and Pinchy and the cabbage vendor. There was much cabbage that day. And then Pinchy said what from across the town. And then the cabbage stand exploded twice. Kaboom!
My cabbages! Exclamation point, question mark.
And then Pinchy was quadrillionaire. This pun is surprisingly idiotic. Anyway, the commotion over at the other side of the town is that all the bottles of alcohol in the liquor as discovered the alcohol store was gone. Oh no, what is Berreh to do now? Booze is more important than FUDs. But Berreh was distracted with cabbages and lampshades, and a hyper-bouncy pink pony discussing the merits of cherries and Mexican food.
No, Punky, you see, sour and savory only work well with red wine. And Harry's is not the best fruit for a dry wine like that. Whitey cabbages.
The pink pony blinked at her and bounced away. Meanwhile, Pinchy was on a quest to find out where all the alcohol went to preserve her mother's sanity. If Berreh ever saw that all the alcohol was gone, her mind would explode. Twice. And so Pinchy started asking the people around the alcohol store what happened, and they were like,
I don't know what.
So Pinchy finally had a lead, and then she followed a trail of empty bottles all the way to Canterlot. And then she found Princess Celestia with all the bottles of alcohol in the world. And Pinchy was like,
What?
And then Princess Drunkestia was like, and then began the epic battle to take back the alcohol. Insert epic music. One what to rule them all, one what to find them all. One what to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. In the land of Canterlot where the shadows lie. Who the hell wrote this? Pinchy drew her sword of what? The sword of Anwatil. The sword that was broken and then what again? Drunkestia cast a spell, but since she rolled 23 on 1d20, it was obviously hacks and disqualified. Pinchy held Drunkestia at sword point and demanded all the alcohol back, but since she was talking, the sword fell out of her mouth. And then Drunkestia grabbed Pinchy in a Bear Grylls hug and then tumbled off the side of Canterlot. Wow, this storytelling actually is making me thirsty. Better drink my own piss. Lovely. The two figures plummeted down the side of Canterlot. A bright light shined. And as they hit the ground, the power of a quadrillion watts exploded from the center in a huge atomic smoke cloud of white. As the dust cleared, Drunkestia was on the floor, hiccuping drunkenly, and Pinchy walked away in slow motion with all the alcohol, returning to Ponyville foreshadowed against the sunset. That's not the right use of that word. And thus the alcohol was saved. And Pinchy said what? And she brought the liquor back to the alcohol store, which was now a bar, just in time to see Berreh walk inside. And now back to Berreh. Stromfort was doing some sweet kickflips and on his new sick skate box, and sweet sick flips, sick flying into the sick sweet sun, away he went. So the sun got tore up with sick moves. Now back to Stromfort. Berreh stared after the bouncing pink pony for a second, wondering how she could always be so chipper yet never seem to drink anything. She shrugged and decided that it was a good time to continue her search for... Wait a minute. She noticed a pub across the lane and decided it was a good time for a nice drink. And she thought she saw Pinchy there. Maybe. Possibly. Might have been a dog, though, so she went. Inside the pub was a super heavy, dramatic, dark atmosphere, darkness and drama, and a little light over by the restrooms so that people don't trip on their way in with much smoke and awe, but mostly smoke. A sad song was being played from an out-of-tune radio on an out-of-tune piano on an out-of-tune guitar because it was kind of smushed by the out-of-tune piano and out-of-tune radio. In a back corner, and an out-of-tune stallion wiped a grimy out-of-tune glass with a dirty tissue behind the bar.
Berreh.
He nodded out of tune curtly, but it was probably his twitch.
Shut up and give me a hard-on or something or other.
Berreh replied, leaning on the worn bar and staring across the stallion. And then a rock fell on her head because that's a hard object, and you see, I made a joke. Haha, funny, right?
It's been a while since you came to my place, Berreh.
He said with a wink. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
What brings you to this town?
The bartender asked, pouring a glass of sour-looking liquid. from a couple of grimy bottles on the shelf. He passed the glass to Berreh with a whoosh across the counter, hitting a grain of dust, making it fly into the air, bouncing into the adjacent wall, smashing part of a decorative handle, clattering to the ground, and it somehow did several backflips before landing in Berreh's grasp.
Just for shopping. Then I stumbled in here and I'm fixing to stumble right back out.
She then stuck her face into the drink and drowned the drink and left a few watts on the bar and made for the mirror.
Berreh,
She stopped for a second, derping.
You don't have to be.
Wink, 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 wink. When Nick, wink. She turned and looked at the old stallion.
Maybe not, but your mugs are dirty. Wink, wink.
She then gave a little wiggle, wobbly, shimmy, and shake, and walked back into the street. And then the bartender let out a sigh of relief when Berreh left because Pinchy brought the alcohol back just in time. Meanwhile, in a field outside of Ponyville, a shimmering mirage was scaring off all the animals. A blue box appeared out of seemingly nowhere, and a tan pony on an hourglass cutie mark fell out of the front doors of it.
How does she always manage to completely destroy the fabric of reality itself?
He said to no pony in particular. He then shook himself, stood up, sat down, got distracted by a ladybug, and then eventually decided that he had better head into town, so he did, so after about 3 more minutes of completely goofing off. Berreh was wandering from stall to stall in the marketplace, trying to fathom what items were free samples to eat, and what items were just for display by grabbing whatever she could and stuffing it into her mouth, when suddenly she ran into herself.
You? Me? But how? Why? What? Indeed.
The two became fast friends and forgot all about their present endeavors with running a home, and instead went to spend an evening on the town, hitting up all the pubs, sharing tales of drunken shenanigans.
There she rhymed coins with lords. Can you believe that?
Berreh was saying as a tan pony with an hourglass cutie mark trotted into the pub.
Berreh. Punches.
Dr. Who's queried when seeing that there were 2 of them.
Talk.
Berreh replied quizzically, looking at the newcomer.
You've never been much of a drinker in the past.
Next line.
What? You've never been much of a drinker in the past. I'm not talk. Rather, both of you come with me. And make haste. The future of the very universe may depend on it.
A brief moment of silence fell across the pub before the entire place erupted in laughter.
You're not usually such a joker, Talk.
Berreh said with tears in her eyes from laughter.
Have you been drinking or something?
Hoof had an expression of total seriousness, walked over and began pushing the 2 Berrehs out the door.
This is not a laughing matter.
Why you do this? We was telling all the stories.
Do you want the universe to end?
The Berrehs looked at each other.
Maybe.
They said in unison. And then Pinchy was like, Blarp 030, you jelly bro. We interrupt this program to bring you Courage the Cowardly Dog show starring Courage the Cowardly Dog. Wait. Diamond Dog.
Wait, you suck at this. You suck at this. Courage the Cowardly Dog show starring Courage the Cowardly Diamond Dog. Abandoned as a pup, she was found by Muriel, who lives in the middle of nowhere with her husband Eustace Bag. But creepy stuff happens in the middle of nowhere. It's up to Courage to serve his new home.
Now back to your originally scheduled derp. Berreh and Hoof look up from bowls of coin grain munch, buy new coin grain munch, we are totally not trying to product place or anything, and realize the film is rolling again. What? Where were we? Oh yeah.
Why would you want the universe to end?
Hoof said, looking irritated with a dribble of milk on his muzzle, left hoof, tail, and parts of his mane and flank.
Because it'd be interesting.
Berreh the first said. Berreh the second nodded in agreement. Hoof looked slightly shocked for a second, then realized that this is exactly what he should have expected from the drunken pony. In a different time and a different place, perhaps, she would have been quite the adventurer. But in this universe, she was simply supposed to be another good mother, or supposed to be a good mother to her child, and the best brewer the region would ever know. Just then, from the sky, a loud crack was heard, and dark happened, and the rain and blood and black fell like a sheet of plastic wrap and coated it. Everything was a dark and grime, and Pony shrieked and Lily fainted, and they called it grimdark. You see, Stromford had accidentally done a sick, nasty 360 backflip, front kick, stick gnarly grind off of the sun into space in his sick Skatebox 2000, destabilizing the magnetic fields, resulting in an increase in the amount of rain particles in the air, which are scientifically proven to increase the amount of rain and increase the amount of elder gods scurrying with darkness.
If you be wanting some coins, you best be opening your loins, if you know what I mean.
The mysterious pony threw some coins up into the air without breaking eye contact, and the coins then fell down all over the place, and the stranger cursed to themselves, and hurriedly tried to pick up the coins, but this exposed their flanks for a sneaky attack, so they were all confused on what the tactical positioning they should put themselves in, because they just knew the general had wanted to mount a forward offensive, and reversing their own position would make it an attack from the rear, which would be terrible. And then they all fucked military style. Lovely. Berreh the First was affected by this storm in an odd way, suddenly feeling way too optimistic about things. Berreh the Second took on a sullen demeanor, suddenly feeling way too pessimistic about all other things. Hoof sniffed the air.
It's already beginning to come apart.
It's already beginning to come apart. Well, let's drink to the end of the world.
Berreh the First exclaimed.
I can at least agree with the drinking part.
Berreh the Second said sullenly. Pinchy burst into the room, wet coming off of her berry being, and tackled the bottles of alcohol at the table. She then flailed wildly, overloading with the wet before all the things went wet. Both berries just stared. And then Hooves got upon her. And then they all fucked. Oh, God. After the sex and porn's what would make even Lunati and Sin blush, they remembered that the world was ending and did it all again. And then Hoof decided that saving the world was a good idea again.
This is fun and all, but the world is going to collapse on its own in a whopping 3 days.
Dawn of the third day. Hoof sat there oozing what and goo from his ponier because he had been building it up for the last 3 days. That somewhat never happened but did. Because just look at that. It even says it was the dawn of the third day. Damn, can't you read? Berries both chimed in.
Ooh, is Storm up there doing sick, nasty hip flips on the news?
And Strom was, and he was, and there was the moon, precariously close to the planet, because Luna got stuck in the fridge again with Derpy, and couldn't be bothered to move the moon around. It was a world in which all things were not as one would expect, and even Hoof did not realize just how insane this world had become. Was it the alcohol? Was it the drugs? Was it some kind of psychological attempt to distance the denizens of its plane of existence with the ethereal horrors that lurked at the very doorstep? The ponies may never know, but one thing is certain. Strom could do some sick nasty kick sick flips, and nasty kick sicknitude. Oh yeah, and there was a little chance of saving the universe to be like the Equestria he had thought it would be. Was that a bad thing? Nay. Oh god, that pun. Suddenly Berreh the First did a kickflip, and Strom came down from the sky riding the moon as if it were a giant jackalope and flip-kicked Berreh so hard that it unflipped her kickflip with an extra kick all up in that flip so that Strom did extra nasty awesome sick kickflips all the way back on his way back into the nightosphere, but thought,
Nah, man, that ain't cool.
and instead hung out with Berreh some more.
Stromfoot, you crazy dragon! To the moon!
And Berreh then hopped on Stromfort's head and pointed at the moon. And so Strom flew off towards the moon in a very 8-bit video game style way, crossing the shimmering 8-bit seas, and the 8-bit sun started to set while this played in the background. Okay. Then some stuff happened. Oh, and that really awesome thing that would blow your mind, but we kind of used up the budget on drinks, so we can't really tell you what actually happened. But don't worry, it was just so mind-blowing, amazing, that it probably is for the best, actually, so that your mind doesn't just fissure at the pure, undiluted talent. And awesome, that is what the missing chunk is. But no. I mean, we didn't write it because of funding issues, remember? I told you already. And, hey, we got more money, so here is more random smashings of the keyboard, and then I'm not saying that. Something, something, something. Modern Ponyville 3, sequel to the highest selling game of all time, with the exact same weapons that look slightly different, and an all-new auto-noob scope feature that will have you ponying people all around the world. Packed with epic 15-minute single-player campaign and 80 years of multiplayer content. Boom, level 80, bitches. Don't even get us started in achievements. Modern Ponyville 3, are you a pony? God, that's dumb. And then deep within the Everfree Forest, the bright light gleamed with an ancient ruined castle. The ghost-like presence of an alicorn stood in the center of the ancient throne room. Lauren Faust instantly sensed all that had happened in her universe, that she was not pleased. Dawn of the second day. What? We're going back in time, motherfuckers? Really? Once more, Talk sat there and extruding what, having not actually moved, but I guess he had to have moved backwards in time, and that was what breaking his pony mind, but never mind that. Drone talk. Berreh was wandering around Ponyville, confused as exactly what it was that she was doing, which is normally the case for her when she's not in the tavern or brewing. Dorothy Hooves was following close behind, discussing the merits of various grains and muffin baking, while accidentally knocking over half of the mailboxes along the way. Rainbow Dash told Derpy that she shall not pass, and then the earth itself broke, and Derpy dragged Dash into the earth as she fell, and Dash was like Gandalf and shiz. Barry didn't notice anything and just kept walking because Barry is oblivion like that. Meanwhile, Pinchy was overseas in an effort to overthrow the communist Lunar Republic on behalf of Celestia, taking advantage of Luna being stuck in the fridge with Derpy. The little filly was somehow well versed in the arts of war and espionage and could infiltrate the ranks of the Stalingrad elite. Pinchy barrel rolled through the roof and landed smack dab in the kitchen, staring at Derpy's hot plank sticking... Staring at Derpy's hot plot sticking out of the fridge next to Luna's even hotter plot, because plots are hot. But Berreh was actually Luna's personal bodyguard and well versed in the art of Derpenmare. And so Pinchy and Derpy fought while Luna was still eating moon pies in the fridge. It was an epic battle in which the fight was had. But due to copyright laws, ahem, so papita, acta, we can't tell you about it. Watch the first Star Wars movie and you'll get the idea. And so Pinchy defeated Derpy and overthrew Luna, a moon pie, because Pinchy was actually a double agent and Derpy was Celestia's spy. Plot twist. But Celestia knew that and was expecting it to happen because she is an Uber troll and Celestia is never going to give you... Oh, God, you would do that. 500 miles away, something completely unrelated happened that has no bearing on the plot. And what a fine plot it is. You know what? You know you want... Wait. You know you want to shove your face in the plot. You want to be in the plot. You'd like to taste the full glory of the plot, too. You'd fill up on all the plot holes. Saucy. Dripping with sauce. So much sauce you can't even hold it all. Sauce coating every surface you can see, including the plot. Let's get back to that. Pinchy was walking around with all her Watts, Watting and Watt in Wattville as Pinchy brought some Watt apples with her. Watts, Water, Watt, was with Watt, Bo, was what helping, what? Fuck this paragraph. No. I'm not going any further with that. Back to Ponyville, the movie, the game, the fan fiction, the fan art, no! The fanimation. Based on the novel, based on the true story, based on the story told by my grandpa. Berreh remembered that it was food for the house that she was after. But she was a terrible pony and couldn't remember all the ingredients. Wait, remember what ingredients would be good for what varying foods. She decided that she should consult the library on the matter. So she went. Oh, my back. The library was dark and leafy because it's a tree. Twilight and Spike must have been out for the day, or they died. No one could never really be sure, because Twilight was always really quiet anyway. Berreh entered cautiously because she couldn't see weapon. Are we going in like halfway full life consequences now? She made her way to the bookshelves where books were kept and looked for cookbooks, but there weren't any. The library was in a tree after all, and trees aren't the largest buildings on the block. In fact, they don't fit on a block because of the roots. But an eerie light was shimmering from a doorway between two shelves. And Berreh said,
That's not a light, not books. What is that silly thing doing in a library?
It beckoned her like all dark and spooky things did, and she opened the door. A passage with stairs and stairs and stairs and stairs to the basement was behind the door. From down the door, Berreh heard a mare moaning and murmuring some pony's name. She galloped down the stairs, thinking that the pony might be in trouble. But what she found was hot interspecies sex, because Twilight and Spike were actually in the basement having the sexy times.
OMG, Spike, you're so big.
Twilight was saying, and Spike was all like, erg, what the fuck? And then there was goo everywhere. Because Spike came buckets. The goo was stringy and thick and coated Berreh's mane, and she was like,
What?
And then Berreh joined in the fun. And Pinchy walked in and was all like,
What?
And then she joined in too. And Aloysius walked in and was all like,
Who?
And Spike Kiki said,
Who?
And Berreh said,
Who?
And Twiglet said,
Who?
And Pinchy said,
What?
And then they all fucked. Aw, yeah. Pixar didn't happen. Photos Finish took pics because she was there for some no good reason or something. She was there because she's a Finn and they're everywhere something juicy is happening. Juicy like Berreh's hot plot, which you can see pics of because Photo Finish took them and posted them all over Pahio and E621, and everyone clopped to them. Berreh clops to the thought of ponies clopping to her. It's so much so that there was a time where she got a fake ID as McClopping because of it. Berreh's mammalian senses tingled, and she knew that if she didn't transform quickly, she would be regretting something fierce. So she Wonder Twin powers activate and became a giant rock lobster. Berreh was all,
Hey, Pinchy, look, I can pinch you just like you can.
Except it was all bubbles because lobsters can't fucking talk, you ignorant cum sluts. So Berreh clawed all the way at the surroundings and foam props that had accumulated due to her natural tendency to do such things as drink and hoard. And she was dancing a mighty fin crew, and before she knew it, there was a big explosion with sent her flying all over the world, and she did some awesome backflips and front flin or something, and every pony and lobster was all
Dead ass.
And she went
Bubba fizza bubba.
because she was a lobster. But the heat from the sun made her thirsty. Very, 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 very thirsty. So she drank like a sailor and cursed like a fish. And then school happened. I need to get my son to school so she can learn not to be such a slut like that Twilight Circle that likes to watch fillies be naughty. And Shirley was like,
Lol, today is sex ed orgy time.
ah damn. Verity thought to herself as she hallucinated about stuff. But seriously, Pinchy is the sluttiest son ever. She sleeps with every poner at once's. Commercial interjection the second.
Do what you want 'cause the pirate is free. You are a pony. Yar har fiddle-dee-dee. Being a pony is alright with me. Do what you want 'cause the pirate is free. You are a pony. We've got us a flank. It's got a mark on its precious booty. Take the mark to the bank, and then we'll say hooray!
/N commercial. Suddenly out of nowhere, Celestia descended upon the ponies like an AK-47 from Stalingrad and said,
Pinchy, you was the one who has to stop Luna from attempting to grab all the powers.
and Pinchy blinked twice, and then Celestia was all,
But I joke, you did a wonderful job. Here's a vibrator.
and tossed a dildo to the young filly and blinked thrice, and then grabbed it and ran home to her room because it was time for another web show for Moner, and Pinchy was Moner. Berreh was confused and the world was not spinning, which meant it was time again for the Drinklings. But there was not to be found in the library, so Berreh ran up the stairs and out the door and down to the town square where Hoof was waiting.
Berreh,
He said,
you can't dodging the inevitable destruction of your own reality like this.
Berreh responded,
No time for seriousness. I need booze.
and ran past, but Hoof held up a bottle of fine brandy.
I know, Berreh. I know all about you. Wink, wink.
Berreh stopped and took the bottle and drank, and then the world was spinning again, and she could see clearly and think straight.
But why? Who are you? I can't even...
Hoof smirked.
Oh, we've had plenty of adventures, if you know what I mean. You just don't remember it, because it wasn't necessarily this version of you, if you know what I mean. But you are the you that right now, that's single-hoofedly causing the destruction of the universe. You tend to do that a lot, you know?
Berreh looked at the tall stallion quizzically.
But how? All I do is get drunk and do my best to take care of my kids and brew things.
Hoof said,
Because you are you. You are not meant for such a simple life, it seems. The world tends to bend to your will, to spice things up simply to make it interesting for you. Well, isn't interesting a good thing? If everything was always interesting, there would be no progression, because it would inevitably end up in pure chaos, in which nothing can be accomplished. But I don't want to accomplish anything in particular. That may very well be, but your soul yearns for adventure. And yet the reality you find yourself in has built walls that constrict you.
Berreh drank some more.
All you say is words, words, words. Why don't you do something?
But suddenly Pinchy dropped the wet bomb and water splattered everywhere, and the ponies couldn't wash it off for weeks. And the only thing that washed it off was more wet, so there really was still wet everywhere, and no pony really noticed the difference. Hoof didn't care either and looked at Berry sternly.
My very presence here is doing something. If you don't stop allowing the world to allowing you to devolve into the extremes of insanity, you may be visited by certain elder gods, shall we say. Ones that won't necessarily take kindly to your concept of reality. And I care why?
Berry quipped back.
Well, you want adventure, right? Go to the castle in the Everfree. Maybe you'll find something useful there.
Berry looked at the strange tan stallion closely, scrutinizing his features. Somehow she felt she knew him. He looked like the watch store owner Talk, but she didn't particularly know him. But this guy seemed closer somehow. She decided to follow his advice and set out towards Everfree. The forest was dark and the plants were mean and eyes glowered from behind the trees. And there was the unusual state of things, and Berry didn't care because she knew that the best brewing ingredients came from the forest and she could handle herself easily in the depths. She made her way down to the overgrown path past Sakura's house over the broken bridge into the Castle Greyskull. Seriously? Or whatever the fools call it these days. She avoided Sakura's house purposely because last time Sakura told her to open her loins for coins. Or what? It was a truth, and it made her sad because Sakura was friend-drinking Zebra, and it was a low blow. The castle. It was dark and scary and old and dusty. Nobody came here anymore. It was kind of the center of the strangeness of the Everfree. Most were afraid of the forest to begin with. The castle was something beyond their reckoning. Berry wandered the hallways, wondering why she hadn't thought to come before. It was mostly empty, mossy, overgrown, rotten, and decayed, but it felt regal and powerful, like something was waiting to awaken from the ancient rubble. Berry somehow found her way into the throne. It was a place seemingly untouched by time and radiated an energy that she couldn't quite place. Something great and powerful had happened here, and it still echoed of the past. But what was it that she was supposed to find? It was still just a dusty, forgotten hall. And then jumped out some ghost or some shiz, and Berry was so drunk she slept with it. But the ghost was in fact a figment of her imagination. That's right, Berry, you just slept with yourself, imagining that you were sleeping with a ghost in the holiest of the throne rooms in Equestria. How does that make you feel? Berry looks at the camera and smirks.
Quite good, actually. I came.
You get up on her and you clap, 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 clap to Berry, who's doing a web show in front of your screen. And she's trying to come again, clap, clap, clap. She's rubbing her wet nethers and she's moaning all over the camera, and then you come. Hot. But in other news, the sky was raining chaos and disorder, and there wasn't anything any of the main six could do about it, because there was no central foe to face or seemingly any reason why it was happening. It was thunder and lightning and storm and snow all at once. Pinky was laughing, and Flutes was hiding, and Dashy was trying to kick the clouds, but was getting nowhere, and Applejack was hiding on her table, and Rarity was locked up working on her next big line, and Twi was still in the basement of the library, recovering from the oddest but most glorious virginity-taking days of her life. The citizens were flipping tables and stalls and all the things, but nothing was solving anything as the world itself seemed to be turning inside out. And then you threw it on the ground. But the squishy banana was too tough and managed to avert impact. She just got real nicks. Okay. He rose up on his blobby appendages and opened his mouth.
Why you gotta be hating?
He raised his fist at you before falling into a mushy mess and flowing down a sewer drain. He was never heard from again. Sanic Adventures do the Pannivel Crisis. Sanic was on his way to get the shops. Wait, Twilight. Wait, what?
Okay, I'll do this.
Wait, Twilight said to the Sonic. You can't be doing this. The world needs you.
But I need the shops, Sonic said.
They has deals. 111. He went to the fruit shops to get fruit and deals, but the apple was in his. Why more apple I must enter, he said. But the apple was strong and he got punched outside. He thought to himself, I must get in there, but how? He broke down the door and ran super fast past the apple. The apple was so exposed. He exploded. The applesauce ran down and Tails was saved and Berreh did something related to this. The end.
Berreh dug for buried treasure outside the walls of the castle for lack of something better to do when shiny objects in the ground caught her eye. It was a stone shaped like an apple, and it pulsed regularly. She thought,
This feels like a watch.
and decided to take it back to Ponyville. Once in Ponyville, Berreh noticed the chaos and disorder, but didn't care anyway, and went back to the town square, but Hoof was nowhere to be found. So she leaned on the fountain, and thought it was,
If I was a time-traveling pony, where would I be?
and then she thought,
Maybe the library.
so she pushed through the rainstorm towards the library, apple in her mouth, like something from form a shiny ball gag. And Spike got turned on and raped Berreh on the web show from Honor. And it was good rape that the money came in from. Dawn of the first day. Something was amiss. Only a few ponies felt it, and one thing was sure, that for these select few. The days were moving backwards. The final, maybe the first day, had begun. Berreh realized it when she woke up. Berreh was sober. She saw the world as it was really, and it was terrifying. Berreh concluded that since she was drunk yesterday and the day before yesterday, it must be tomorrow, and what? And so it was tomorrow. Today? Yesterday? It was the final day, that was for sure. And Pinchy was what? And so the what went what, and what was what, and the world was ending. Everyone felt it. Everyone felt like they were fading away. Everything was losing its color, turning transparent, losing cohesion, losing itself, gone.
I told you this would happen, didn't I?
Berreh turned around to see Hoof walking nearer to her on the white plain of nothing.
The world's gone and ended. Can't say I didn't warn you.
Berreh looked around, but all she saw was herself, Hoof, and the whiteness around her.
But where are the others?
Berreh asked, surprisingly coherent as she was sober and not drunk on the horror. The horror. Hoof scratched his mane.
Well, basically, it's just you and me. We're drifting along the void of nothing at the moment. There's really nothing else. Everything else has ceased to exist. So we were the only real beings in Equestria? Everything else was just a figment of our imagination?
Hoof shook his head sadly.
Not our imagination, Berreh. It's just yours.
And with that, Hoof was gone, and Berreh was alone. A few months passed, then a year, then 100 more years, an eternity. Berreh was alone. Forever.
And then nothing of value was lost.
Lol. Faust was not pleased. She saw that all was not good. The world began to make shape once more, everything turning back to as it was, normal life in Equestria. Berreh was drunk again, Pinchy was full of what, Twilight was still a secret, in a secret affair with Spike, and the what was what. Faust saw this, and all was good again, so she laid down to rest. And clop. Time. Time never changes. Time goes on. Credits. Day 1 recursion, more shenanigans from the past. Conclusion, Faust is the angered force of 1,000 gods. And then she fixes all the things, thereby basically undoing the fic. And once she sees it as good, she poofs back into eternal slumber or something. Deus ex machina. Just nothing for any pony to use in case I don't get around to writing myself. Berreh. Done. Hero. Mission complete. Strong front the bronze dragon. This is a monstrosity of science, and it's beautiful. Red. Oh God, what have I done? Oh God, what have I done? Oh God, etc., etc. Flascar, Trixie. Blech. Will there be a part 2? Has Berreh provided enough to keep Pinchy? Why the hell did we write this? Tune in next time for Berreh's shopping adventure. You know you want it. That's the stupidest thing I've ever read.
Why?
I've seen stupider.
So have I.
Spiduses?
Spiduses.
I feel like I need like a fucking lobotomy after that, man.